My name is Lauren, and if you're watching this right now, I want you to stay with me, because some stories don't begin with a scream. They begin with silence. It was Christmas morning, the kind of morning that's supposed to feel warm, safe, predictable. The tree was glowing in the corner. Soft music played in the background. Wrapping paper scattered across the floor like confetti from a celebration that hadn't quite landed. I was sitting cross-legged on the rug, halfway through opening a box of socks, smiling politely like I always did. That's when my aunt walked over. She handed me a small gift, nothing flashy, just a simple envelope, and she smiled. "I hope the $1,200 I've been sending every month helped you get through school." I froze. My hands stopped mid-motion. My smile didn't drop, but it didn't feel real anymore. "What money?" I asked. And just like that, the room went silent. Not quiet, silent, like someone had reached over and muted reality. My mom's coffee mug slipped from her hands. It shattered on the floor. My dad went pale. My aunt blinked, confused. Then she said something that changed everything. "Then who's been cashing the checks in your name?" At that moment, that single moment, was the beginning of the end of everything I thought I knew about my family. She pulled out her phone, scrolled quickly, then turned the screen toward me. There it was, my name, my address, her handwritten notes and the memo lines. "For Lauren, proud of you. Keep going. You've got this. Don't stress about money. 2 years' worth, every single month." And I had never seen a single dollar. And my heart didn't break. It dropped. Like something inside me finally understood what my brain had been trying to ignore for years. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why I worked 3 jobs. Why I skipped meals to afford textbooks. Why I lied to professors about bank delays. Why my financial aid was almost revoked. And why, every time I asked my parents for help, they said, "Money's tight right now." Money wasn't tight. Money was taken. I looked at them. Really looked. My mother, wide-eyed, frozen. My father, fidgeting, avoiding eye contact. They said nothing, because there was nothing they could say. My aunt stood up slowly. "You're telling me you never got a single check?" I shook my head. "I thought you stopped caring." Her face changed, and then she turned to my parents. "So who cashed them?" What followed wasn't an explanation. It was deflection. Excuses wrapped in soft voices. We didn't want to burden her. She was already stressed. We used some of it for family expenses. Family, that word again, the one that sounds warm, until it's used as a justification. I stood up, calmly. "It looks exactly like what it is," I said. No yelling, no tears, just truth. And then I walked away, up the stairs, into my room, closed the door, and for the first time in my life, I didn't try to fix it. I packed 1 suitcase. Not everything, just enough. Clothes, laptop, documents, and the last pieces of trust I hadn't already given away. Downstairs, I could hear them. Whispers, panic, movement. But none of it reached me the same way anymore, because something had shifted. When I came back down, my aunt was waiting. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Somewhere they can't touch me." She nodded. "I'll drive." My mom reached for me as I passed. "Lauren, please." I stopped, turned. "I am family," I said, and kept walking. Found that day didn't feel like revenge, it felt like clarity. We went straight to the bank, and when the manager pulled up the records, the truth wasn't subtle. It was obvious. Every check, every month, cashed, signed. But not by me. The signatures weren't even close, sloppy, rushed, like whoever did it never thought they'd be questioned. That hurt more than anything. Not just the betrayal, but the assumption that I wouldn't fight back. My aunt looked at me. "You're filing a report." And for the first time in my life, I didn't hesitate. That night, I didn't cry. I planned every account, every document, every piece of my identity that had been used without my permission. And as I clicked submit on the fraud report, I whispered something to myself. "You built a life off my struggle. Now watch me build one without you." The next few days were quiet, but not peaceful, not yet. There were calls, messages, emails. Some angry, some pleading, some pretending nothing had happened. But one thing was consistent. No one said, "We were wrong." And that told me everything I needed to know. The investigation moved quickly, faster than I expected, because the evidence wasn't complicated. It was clear. The account, joint, under my father's name, with my mother as co-signer. They hadn't hidden it. They had normalized it. That realization was the final break. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't survival. This was choice. So I made mine. I moved forward. Legally. Carefully. Completely. The court date came sooner than I thought. And walking into that room, I didn't feel small. I felt steady. Because for once, I had the truth on my side. And they looked different. Not powerful, not intimidating, just uncertain. And their lawyer spoke, tried to frame it as misunderstanding, family miscommunication, temporary use of funds. But when the judge asked one simple question, "Did you give permission?" and I said no, everything changed. In the room shifted, the tone changed, the truth landed. "This is not a misunderstanding," the judge said. "This is deliberate." And in that moment, something inside me finally closed. Not anger, not pain, just closure. The ruling came. Repayment, damages, written apology. But the real win was walking out of that room without looking back. And because I didn't just reclaim money, I reclaimed myself. The weeks after were different, quiet in a new way. I wasn't waiting for messages. I wasn't checking for approval. I wasn't shrinking to fit into a version of myself that made others comfortable. I was rebuilding. Slowly, intentionally, honestly. And something unexpected happened. People started reaching out, not to judge, not to gossip, but to say, "I understand." And that's when I realized my story wasn't just mine. So I built something with it. A fund, a space, a second chance. For people who had been overlooked, used, dismissed. People who needed someone to say, "You're not wrong for walking away." Because sometimes walking away isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself.
A year later, Christmas came again, but it felt different. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was free. I sat by a tree again, held a gift in my hands, and this time, I was the one giving. And when they asked me why, I smiled, because someone once tried to take my future, and I learned how to build a new one. And that is something no one can take from me again.